Hey everyone, it is me, Tanya, founder of the T&G Designs Group Limited. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Now, in this particular video, we're going to be talking about how to stand out as an authority within your specific industry. But more so specifically, we're going to be deep diving into 3 key things that you want to make sure that you're addressing, especially as an expert, so that you start differentiating yourself from being just another business. Because it's not all about that, as I'm sure you'll agree. It's all about making sure that how can you stand out as much as you can do in your authority, positioning yourself as that go-to expert, but also so that others understand why you are the right fit for them. Because in branding, it's all about making sure that others see that you are more than what you see, but you also need to understand that yourself. But more importantly, they also need to see you as the example of being that way forward. So this is how you make sure that you do so. And when you address these key 3 things that I'm going to share with you shortly, you'll be able to make sure that you are not only standing true to your standards and your beliefs, but also you're going to be congruent to what those things are for yourself as well, especially when it comes to your values. And you're going to make sure that with these things in mind, you're going to be making those better connections. Connections that actually make sense to you as well as your clients and your prospects, but equally connections that actually make sense to all of your audience, your people, all those who are actually following you and actually really want to understand what it is that you're about. So it all starts here by understanding these key 3 things, but also more specifically, how you make sure that you keep the momentum going. So as always, stick around to the very end because I show you a way to make sure that you do keep that momentum going, because it's super important. I share content just like this, and I don't want you to stop at these videos. I want you to keep going, and I want you to keep that momentum pushing forward. So you do that by addressing some key principles that I'll share with you at the very end of this video. But for right here and right now, please make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because I want to make sure that you get all the goodies that you can from understanding what branding is and is not, and more so specifically, how you can make sure that with knowing that you are more than what you see, you get to stand truer to what it is that you do and start attracting the right kind of an audience that really makes sense to you, and vice versa too. So without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. So obviously we're going to be talking about how to become an authority within your industry, but more so specifically, we're going to obviously deep dive into key things that will allow you to make sure that you're standing up as that expert that you are versus just being another business. So what you need to know first and foremost, before we get stuck into these key things, you need to know that when it comes to being an authority, it's not something that you declare. It's something that people actually decide. People meaning your audience, your people. It's something that they decide, and they decide it by all the things that they hear from you, all the things that they see from you, and equally the experience that they've had by how you consistently show up. Now, yes, I've just probably hinted at a couple of things that I'm about to address, but at the same time, when you know those key things, you know how to show up and represent yourself in a way that is going to be super congruent to your standards, your beliefs. So with all that in mind, here's the first thing that you want to make sure that you are really just addressing and just understanding for yourself, okay? First of all, know that clarity beats cleverness. And I'm going to say that again, clarity beats cleverness. So what that means is it's not all about the fancy way you can show yourself and present yourself. It's not all about that, right? It's all about making sure that you're delivering a message that people get from the get-go. They need to understand what it is that you do, why it is that you do it, and how it is that you can actually help them to move from one state to the next. So if you're not being clear about it, if you're not representing or showing up in that kind of a way that allows them to see what it is that you can actually do for them, well then, yeah, they're going to be retracting. I've talked about this before, right? In my other videos. They're going to be confused, and you don't want people to be confused because that pushes themselves back from what it is that you're trying to attract them with. So be clear about what it is that you do, why it is that you do it, and equally more importantly, why it is that matters. Because remember that authority begins with clear messaging that people instantly get. So now moving on. The second thing that you want to make sure that you're addressing or really paying attention to is the idea of consistency and how it builds trust. So when you know that consistency builds trust, you're going to want to show up even more. You're going to want to make sure that all those who are actually seeing who you are and what it is that you're doing and why it is that you're doing it, because you've now addressed why it matters, they're going to start paying attention because they see you repeatedly. Remember, I always share the phrase of repetition equals reputation. Well, that involves consistency. People start seeing you even more as being credible, right? Especially when you start showing up even more and when you start presenting yourself in a way that also aligns with them. And alignment, that consistency, those elements right there are what's going to make sure that you start standing out as that authority within your industry, but more specifically, start making sure that you are standing out as that expert rather than just being another business. Now, the third thing that you want to make sure that you're addressing is the idea of representation and how it more specifically creates recognition. So when representation creates recognition, here's what happens. You are showing up once again in a way, because obviously now we've addressed the consistency factor, right? So you are now showing up in a way that people start seeing themselves in you. You are showing up by way of sharing your brand story or even your visuals. The whole look and feel as to who you are and what you stand for is now being presented, but consistently being presented. People are now building that trust. And with representation and with the idea of recognition, they now recognize you by way of your expertise and as being that go-to expert within your industry, because you are addressing key things that they get and understand, and also because they now see you as being that right fit because of the way that you're connecting with them. This is all built on connection. Authority builds connection, and more importantly, like I shared with you beforehand, it also builds trust. When people trust more, they're more likely to move in your direction rather than move away from what it is that you're doing and why it is that you're doing it. Because now they get it, they understand you. Help people to understand what journey it is that you're taking them on, but more so specifically, help them to understand not only how you can help them, but why you know that you can help them. A lot of experts, and I put them in inverted commas because they don't always address these things. They just go straight for the service, what it is that it can do, how it is it can potentially help them, but they don't really spend enough time on that element there, and they won't even go into the why element either, meaning why it is that it is specific for them, why it is that they can help them with their problems, why it is they can actually do the do because they've actually walked the walk. They don't talk about those things. Those are all elements as to how you can make sure that when you, as the expert, you're showing up and representing yourself in a manner that allows others to actually pay attention. It helps them to understand who you are, why you are doing all these key things, simply based off of your experiences, simply based off of the levels of credibility that you're now building on. They get to now see why you are the authority, and they've now decided that you are the authority because of that. Now, I just want to draw your attention to the idea of LinkedIn, okay? LinkedIn is a clear-cut brand that allows all kinds of thought leadership to be promoted. I say promoted, I'm not talking about paid ads or anything like that. Anytime you are representing or showing up in a way that talks about you and your business, you're promoting yourself, okay? So first and foremost. Now, I want you to understand the idea of thought leadership. When you are showing up with clarity in mind, when you are showing up with consistency so you can build trust, and more so specifically, when you are doing so in a way that allows you to build on representation by way of how you're being recognized, LinkedIn in specific allows that to happen. LinkedIn provides space for experts. They provide space for experts who actually deliver thought leadership that actually addresses problems for their audience, because they recognize that this is a more focused source of attention. So when audience members come to that platform, they know exactly what they're looking for and also what they're going to be getting to. So think about how can you show up, right? Show up in a way that allows for clarity, that allows for consistency, but that also allows for a way to represent what it is that you do, why it is that you do it, but also who you are as that go-to expert in a way that allows your audience to now recognize that you are that authoritative figure. They've decided now because of those key things that you're constantly showing up with. So I'm going to leave it there, and I want you to really think about that, how it is that you can actually help yourself to do so. And more specifically, folks, please go ahead and share this video with other like-minded entrepreneurs such as yourself, all those in the service-based industry. Please share that with them, because people need to know, and more specifically, service-based business owners and entrepreneurs, however they identify, they need to know what they can do to be able to make sure they keep elevating their brand in the best possible kind of a way. to allow for themselves to be seen as that authoritative figure, that go-to expert, and not just be seen as another business. So here's how you can continue this whole momentum just from off the back of just watching this video. Go ahead, click on the link that's underneath the description box below. Make sure you tap on that link, fill in the details that I ask you for, because then what's going to happen next is I'm going to actually send you key information on 6 key principles that will allow you to continuously elevate within your brand, or even level up in a way that actually is congruent to your standards, your beliefs, allows you to know exactly who you need to be talking to, understanding how you can really hit home or hit the nail on the head as to the problems that they're typically facing, but also why or even how that you can make sure that with your credibility in mind, you're showing up consistently. You're showing up in a way that brings clarity, more importantly. So go ahead and click on the link that's under the description box below. Fill in your details. Make sure you also go ahead and subscribe to this channel. And folks, I will see you on the other side.